UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
It is a beautiful morning. Thank you so much for joining us here on UBC Television. This is Good Morning Uganda, and my name is Olive Monica Najima. I'm so happy that you're here with us, and I'm so happy that you're in the month of September. Now, September is the month that begins the bar months, that September, October, November, December, and obviously these months are very exciting for many Ugandans and many people across the world because they indicate that we are about to get to the finish line of that year. Now, obviously, when the year began, I believe that many of you made goals and resolutions. And I just want to check in this morning with my team, starting with Chantal. Good morning, Chantal.
Good morning, Olive. How are you?
I'm okay. How are you?
I'm doing very well.
All right.
You just talked about the bar months.
Oh, yes, the bar months. Now that we are in the bar months, have you checked yourself and done an audit to see, okay, where am I regarding my goals that I set in January?
I do checks every time I get onto another month, and I like to do the checks because they help me, keep track of what I want to do for myself. So I've done the checks. I'm not doing so bad. I think I'll put it that way. But we still have like 4 more months to go, so let's see how that goes.
Well, that's a start. Now, I am checking in with a gentleman. You see, in most cases, they say that it's the ladies that like to say, I have resolutions, I have goals for the new year.
New year,
but
new
Sonko
me.
Strikes me like the kind of guy that makes these kind of things. How are you, Sonko?
I'm really okay. So happy that today we've started it off with some rainfall within Kampala. I don't know how it has been for those up country, but there are some showers here in the capital. But besides the resolutions, I had quite many. But then I've come to realize in the first 8 months of the year that life is more important. So I'll take the other resolutions come next year. Maybe it's more like I'm saying that this year has refused. Let's try again next year.
So you're trying to tell us that this year you've existed, you've not
I have really existed. I've had some few resolutions coming to pass. I should definitely say some things I've actually worked on, the others haven't. But the most important part is I'm happy that life is moving on.
Oh.
So should we say life has gone through you or you've gone through the year?
Both ends.
Oh, wow. Good morning, Chiravo. It rained this morning, so I wonder, how did you make it here?
Well, the Baganda have a saying, akali amagwa. Yes. Something like that. But all I can say when it comes to resolutions, I'm grateful to the Lord, but I've learned this. One day at a time. Sweet Jesus.
One day at a time. But who stole your machines? Eh?
Don't dare me sing. I'm so talented and gifted. Just that the Uganda music industry is not that favorable for me, for the kind of music I do. Yes,
what kind of music are we talking about?
What kind
I always
of
have
music?
soul-touching music.
Which soul-touching music, Chiravo?
Wait.
I have a feeling that your soul-touching music is Kadongo Kamuga,
No.
those things.
No. I do soul-touching music. That when you listen to my music, just like
your soul gets touched.
You just feel I drive you to a certain
live.
Determined to detonate bombs in crowded areas, though still on the run. In the ongoing operation in Kampala, police have arrested other 2 suicide bombers, one in Natete, Mabito, and the other in Bunamwaya. Counterterrorism has detonated the explosives. The bomb threats to Uganda come few weeks after UK's travel advisory citing a likely terror attack on Uganda.
Moving on, the Forum for Democratic Change Party Working Committee members have resolved not to grant to the budget of 638 million shillings the chairman of the party, Waswa Birigwa, had presented to hold the Extraordinary Delegates Conference. The conference was to discuss reconciliation among members of the party. FDC Deputy Spokesperson John Chikonyogo told the media at FDC party headquarters in Najanankumbi this was presented on the 30th of August after the announcement in the newspaper, and yet the party has also organized a delegates conference to elect leaders, which is priority, and funds will be directed to this conference.
And moving on, moving on, experts have warned that Uganda will suffer a fuel scarcity challenge if government does not intervene on the high price for fuel that have risen above 5,000 per litre. A sales and marketing director of Europet Petroleum, Carlos Kasinga, attributes the high demand of fuel and low supply chain as in the current crude oil industry and global production cuts, together with the rising world oil prices and appreciating of the dollar against the shilling.
In other news, investors in Uganda have said that the market for Ugandan products will expand significantly due to the relationship between Uganda and other countries. This was during preparation for the 3-day Uganda-South Africa Investment Summit, which starts tomorrow at Munyonyo. The Uganda-South Africa Trade Forum kicked off in South Africa in February, with President Museveni requesting a second one in Uganda to attract all South African investors. The head of Ugandans working in South Africa, Philip Kakuru, explained the conference would increase the export volume of Ugandan goods and increase export earnings. President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni is expected to attend the event and deliver a message to investors to strengthen trade and relations between Uganda and South Africa.
Away from the local news, we cross over to the international scene. North Korea's Kim Jong-un plans to travel to Russia this month to meet President Putin, a U.S. official has told news agencies. The two leaders will discuss the possibility of North Korea providing Moscow with weapons to support its war in Ukraine, and this is according to the official. The exact location of the planned meeting is not clear. There was no immediate comment on the report, also carried by other U.S. media from North Korea or Russia. Sources told the New York Times that Mr. Kim was most likely to travel by armored train The possible meeting comes after the White House said it had new information that arms negotiations between the two countries were actively advancing. National Security Council spokesman John Kirby said Russia's defense minister Sergei had tried to convince Pyongyang to sell artillery ammunition to Russia during a recent visit to North Korea. Away from that, China yesterday indicated that the leader Xi Jinping would skip an important gathering of the world's 20 top economies for the first time, with Premier Li Qiang traveling to the event in New Delhi this weekend in his place. Xi's absence from the G20 summit comes as tensions simmer between China and the host country India over their disputed border and New Delhi's growing ties with the United States. Questions about Xi's attendance at the meeting were first raised last week when Reuters reported the Chinese leader was likely to miss it, citing two unnamed Indian diplomats. At a regular news conference yesterday, China's foreign ministry said Li would attend the summit on Saturday and Sunday without mentioning Xi. And away from that, we cross over back to Africa. The ruling RHDP won in 2/3 of the 112 communes where results have so far been tallied. And this is according to partial results. We are speaking elections in Ivory Coast. A total of 201 communes were up for grabs at Saturday's elections. The two main opposition parties, Democratic Party PDCI and Democratic Party, who had teamed up in many areas to take on the RHDP, 1 in 15 of the communes counted, with the rest going to independent candidates. A total of 31 regional councils were also up for election on Saturday. The first 8 results from those contests all went to RHDP, according to the Electoral Commission, with Prime Minister Patrick Achi winning in the southern Emi region and Defense Minister Tene in Chologo in the north. Also, speaking matters climate, heads of state and government and industry leaders are among thousands of attendees at the summit where Africa is promoting its potential as a clean energy powerhouse and asset in addressing the climate emergency. The Africa Climate Summit in Nairobi comes ahead of the COP28 summit later this year in the oil-rich United Arab Emirates, which is expected to feature competing agendas for the world's energy future. The 3-day event in Nairobi, which began on Monday, is billed as bringing together African leaders to defend a shared vision for green development on the diverse continent of 1.4 billion. Kenyan President William Ruto is hosting counterparts from countries including Mozambique, Tanzania, Ghana, and United Nations head Antonio, U.S. climate envoy John Kerry, and COP28 President Sultan Al-Jaber are in attendance. That is it for climate news and also international news. We cross over to the press review.
Well, of course, now with the press review, I have the New Vision and the Daily Monitor with me. With the New Vision highlighting police names places on terror hit list as 6 suspects arrested. More bomb materials have been recovered. That is according to what the police has identified. Now also, how government paid ghost teachers for 22 years. There is a big report on that one regarding the ghost teachers, and we also have issues to do with ghost districts in the country. Then furthermore, President Museveni is set to punish individuals escalating a power conflict. That is still with the New Vision today. Then in her vision, how rugby star raised daughters as a teen mother. There is a report inspiring young mothers. And also in the new curriculum, Visionist tests excite students. Which tests are those? New Vision has more. And furthermore, with the Daily Monitor, still with the local press review here in Uganda, Uganda passport fraud nightmare in East Africa. There is a big report of that as the bigger headline from the Daily Monitor today. Then furthermore is that Back to the Roots Karamoja annual cultural show kicks off or starts. And in the other news, Kasubi hopes to reopen next month. Big news for the Uganda Kingdom. Then savers now shun NSSF midterm benefits. Why is that so? A report well detailed by the Daily Monitor today. As security forces recover more bombs in Kampala. The Daily Monitor shows you more as police cautions Bobi Wine on following rules during his particular country tour. And then pomp, color, warnings as world leaders meet for climate talks in Nairobi, Kenya. That is with the Daily Monitor today.
Thank you so much, Jerome Paul, for that press review. We will take a short break, and when we come back, we will be looking into matters national security. Now, I know that most of us have heard what happened on Sunday, where police was able to defuse a bomb that was supposed to detonate at Miracle Center Cathedral. Now, we want to go further and look at this and the implications these terror attacks have on our country, Uganda. Don't go away. We will be right back.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
It is a beautiful morning. Thank you so much for joining us here on UBC Television. This is Good Morning Uganda, and my name is Olive Monica Najima. I'm so happy that you're here with us, and I'm so happy that you're in the month of September. Now, September is the month that begins the bar months, that September, October, November, December, and obviously these months are very exciting for many Ugandans and many people across the world because they indicate that we are about to get to the finish line of that year. Now, obviously, when the year began, I believe that many of you made goals and resolutions, and I just want to check in this morning with my team, starting with Chantal. Good morning, Chantal.
Good morning, Olive. How are you?
I'm okay. How are you?
I'm doing very well.
All right.
You just
Now
talked about the bar months.
Oh, yes, the bar months. Now that we are in the bar months, have you checked yourself and done an audit to see, okay, where am I regarding my goals that I set in January?
I do checks every time I get onto another month, and I like to do the checks because they help me, keep track of what I want to do for myself. So I've done the checks. I'm not doing so bad. I think I'll put it that way. But we still have like 4 more months to go, so let's see how that goes.
Well, that's a start. Now, I am checking in with a gentleman. You see, in most cases, they say that it's the ladies that like to say, I have resolutions, I have goals for the new year.
New year,
but
new me.
Sonko strikes me like the kind of guy that...
Brought to you by
MTN Momo Pay is the easy way to pay. Dial *165*3# or use the MTN Momo app. You don't need cash. MTN Momo Pay is safe and free.
I've seen a number of community members out there that have formed themselves into groups and have identified enterprises, agricultural enterprises, rice and all that, and they've actually been successfully cultivating them. They've gone ahead, the project has gone ahead and also introduced small-scale industries like the rice huller, the grinding mills and all that are managed by the groups. All these are successes.
Uncle, you should see London. Oh, my boy. This has been 5 years. You should see Uganda. Yes. Uncle Marcus, that's my former school.
See, soon there will be more than 1 million children learning like this for free.
This is impressive. Do you even have connection out here?
Well, we have 100% 4G countrywide.
Okay.
We even have 5G too.
That's a approximately 700 billion Uganda shillings in tax, making Airtel one of the largest corporate income taxpayers over the last 5 years, helping build a better Uganda.
Today your son saw our new Uganda.
Thank you, Uganda, for imagining it with us and making us the fastest growing telecom in the country over the past 5 years.
Juko. Yo. Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Haven't you heard of the parish development model PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, Sebatia. It is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a poultry project, and now things are moving.
Juko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. But what you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Well, a beautiful morning to you, Ugandans. Thank you so much for keeping it Uganda Broadcasting Corporation, that is UBC. And of course, thank you so much for keeping it Good Morning Uganda. Well, my name is Olive Monica Najuma, and I am joined by Chantal Olive Akandinda and Joram Paul Sonko. Now, this morning, like I said earlier, but if you're just joining us, that's okay. This morning, we are going to delve into matters national security. As Ugandans or anyone living in Uganda, you know that over the weekend, our men in uniform were able to defuse a bomb that was supposed to detonate at Miracle Center Cathedral. And since then, several others have been found in places where they were supposed to detonate. And of course, suspects are in custody. And yes, a vote of thanks to our men in uniform. They really acted fast and made sure that they avert something that was going to be catastrophic to the entire country. Because when you look at it, a place like Miracle Center Cathedral has thousands of people that attend church every Sunday. Now imagine if this bomb had taken off, it would have been catastrophic, probably something worse than what we saw in 2010 when a bomb went off at Chadondo Rugby Ground during the World Cup finals that year. And of course, that same year, there is another bomb that went off at the Ethiopian village in, what's that place? Muyenga? Yes, around that area. So we thank the Uganda Police and other security agencies for acting efficiently and swiftly to ensure that lives were saved. But that being said, this is something that has been going on in the country, and it is now becoming worrisome. Last year in November, we still had bomb blasts going off, one at Parliamentary Avenue, and of course another one at the Central Police Station. And in these, 3 suicide bombers died last year. And of course, there was another one that took place at a pork joint along Gayaza Road, and a few people died. So this is becoming the norm in the country, and it's becoming worrisome. So we are here to first of all ask a question: how best can the government help the Ugandans to protect themselves, and also as Ugandans, how can we improve vigilance when it comes to, you know, protection and ensuring that these things do not happen to us, or that we can look out for signs of maybe a suicide bomber or someone that is building explosive devices, among others. And I'll go back to the team. And first of all, what do we know is the reason? First of all, actually, let me go back to the beginning. Who is making these explosive devices, and what's the rationale?
When you look at the people that have been cited or the suspects that have been brought forward over the years, you realize that most of them are actually Ugandans. And the major reasons really have not been put in place as to why this is happening. And I think that's where we seem to be having a challenge, because we need to get to the bottom of this. However, when you look at these bombs that are being used, especially the last bombs that the recent one for Sunday and the ones in 2021, that is in November, the twin bombings, you realize that these were just Uganda-made, Katwe-made. Let me just use Katwe-made, Uganda-made. And what does that imply? It implies they're being made here. And we now need to find out where they are sourcing whatever they are using to make the bombs, so that we regulate these things that are being used to make these bombs. Because at the end of the day, you can never know what today. Someone is going to come with one reason, tomorrow come with another reason, and the other day come with another reason. And that is going to leave confusion, especially even when it comes to the police bodies or to the security bodies that are put in place. You're going to realize that these people are not going to have the same reason for carrying out these activities. And that's the sad bit. And the other, okay, maybe the biggest bit is that these are Ugandans who are supposed to love their country and protect their people, or take part in the protection of the people, but they are not. So we may not be having a direct reason that has been put forward as to why these bombs are actually being put out there.
Over the months and over the incidents that have happened during the different years, like in 2021 with the twin blasts at Parliamentary Avenue and of course Central Police Station and Gayaza Road, police has kept saying that these people are attached to the ADF terrorist group or rebel group. Actually, it's no longer a rebel group in the eyes of the president, because he says rebels normally have an agenda. He says when we went to the bush, we wanted to liberate the country. These people do not really have an agenda. They just wreak havoc and they target the soft spots. For instance, when the rebels or these terrorists attacked Rubiriha Secondary School in Kasese, that was a soft target. There was a police installation, just a few kilometers away from the school. Now, if these people had a good agenda, liberate the country and whatnot, they would have gone and faced off with the people who could actually defend the country. So, over the months, over the years, police keep saying that these suspects or terror suspects are attached to the ADF. But still, it begs for the question, how are these people recruited? Where are they found? Because, like you said, when you find them building these explosives, they're in Kampala, Bwaise, Namuwongo, Makindye.
Well, of course, it is more worrying when it comes to the fact that they are targeting areas now within the capital. And besides looking at the fact that maybe the ADF is funding the entire thing, or we have a rebellious group of people who are within our country trying to, to send a warning. At times you get to realize that these things may be trying to send a warning to the government. Or either way.
Warning about what?
But usually they make their intentions clear when they're sending a warning.
At times they may be trying to send a warning to the government. And then, we've seen a couple of times when President Museveni has come out to say that he's going to fight these hooligans because he believes that this is a threat, not only to the government, but to the people of Uganda. But then also, there is also a question of concern in regards to how our security detail is, is focusing on these particular issues of national security. Because yesterday I did mention something that if you go to arcades, if you happen to go to arcades or to shopping malls, just to see how security is being maintained, you'll be shocked, because at times they tend to, there is a lot of what I could actually say laxity or laziness of our security or, personnel who are at the gates, because they normally have these garrets that are used to to check through, or others actually have for example hotels have safety cabins whereby you have to first pass through to check and see. But then for those for those shopping malls where thousands and hundreds of Ugandans use every day, at times they only check for a few, which is why you've come to realize that, for example, in church, because it is a church and we highly expect people to be checked so much in regards to, you know, any security measures, because we all know that in places of worship, everybody goes there to praise God, to worship. Now, for someone to send in a bomb kind of in a food flask clearly shows you that we only pay attention to the metallic things and we tend not to focus on, let's say, other things that can carry these detonators or anything. And that is why you get to realize that now this particular assailants, if I am to put it in that way, have devised other means, because they've realized even our security personnel are focused on only a few things. And I'm not
it's kind of feeling like you're trying to actually accuse security for not being vigilant, but in this case actually they were vigilant.
No, yes,
they were able to identify that
these
people building these bombs are now moving from what we know to something different.
No, it is the exact thing that is happening, because no one would expect it to be in a food flask.
Okay.
I doubt if me and you would have actually, you know, so that is where I'm actually putting the point, that they've come out to realize that if you look at how our security personnel check, even if you go to an arcade currently, they're only going to check for metallic things, because they believe it is the metallic thing that
things like laptops, don't move with your laptop. But you see, they are also following the advisory.
That means if I get a cup and I go with it, they will think it is just tea. You get my point now. So this is where we are getting into situations now. As you can see now, they are more vigilant because of the situations that have happened. Give it a week, it's going to go back to it's just a week. Just give it a week.
I would like to explore the fact that one, these are occurrences that do not happen on a daily.
Exactly.
For example, every day on Kampala roads, or even in Uganda, there is an accident on the road. So you expect that something like that could happen. But things like terror threats are usually triggered by something. You get it? So you do not expect someone to be on the lookout every single day, especially if they are not in an area that is prone to terror attacks, if there is no political reason that should lead to terror attacks. So that's why maybe you would see the laxity that you mentioned prevailing.
Because also when it comes to terror attacks, you don't know where they're going to hit. In most cases, most Ugandans don't even know that there is even a terror advisory, that something is going to come. I remember over the weekend, I saw the message being shared in WhatsApp groups, and it was claimed it was from police, the head, like from the top management of security of police, that there was likely to be a terror attack in a place of worship. Even when I saw the message, because we are used to people spreading fake news on WhatsApp, when I saw it, at first I also didn't believe it. Only for me to see a headline, police defuses a bomb at Miracle Center. So at some point, we actually don't know when to take some of these things seriously and when not to. So probably, what do you think government can do to ensure that as Ugandans, we are on our toes when it comes to security?
Again, I'm starting with the security personnel. However much we are trying to say it is the laxity that we don't blame onto them. But I've highly mentioned the fact that we have these security people with garrets everywhere you go. So this garret is there not because there is a bomb attack coming, but just you can easily see them, just to make sure that people check out. But the problem is, the more, you see, at times you get to realize that the more we tend to forget about something, it is when it comes back. Because as any, you do expect a terrorist to warn you. If they warn you, they will know. If I warn you, you're going to get ready.
They
or you're
usually
going to prepare
don't
yourself.
warn, they
exactly.
just take
so that means they will just read the environment and realize, okay, so that means in churches, for example, no one is going to mind about the security, and it's having quite a number of people who go there. Then let it be our own target. So they use the church. So that is where you get realized that now some of the churches have started getting more vigilant and have also deployed some security personnel to help them through, especially for those who do overnight prayers. We also have those who have, for example, the Miracle Center Cathedral, for those who actually go in for Sunday service. We even see it a lot with Apostle Grace Luvega, by the way. Whether it's whether there is a warning or not, still people go through, you know, security issues, because you never know what will happen in the long run.
And that's the attitude we need to take, the attitude of you never know.
You never
so
know.
and since our country has been hit several times, I think, actually I don't think, I believe that every place that knows that it gets in a great number of people, or if you have people converging together, even if they're just 30, you need to make sure that you spruce up your security. It's the only way. Because last time in 2021, when they hit at Pork Joint, it didn't have so many people, but there was damage, there was loss of life, you get. So we need to be vigilant at all times. Now, speaking about vigilance, what responsibility do we have in this as a citizenry?
As Ugandans, we've had reports where when you see something weird in your neighborhood, at least report. If you are someone that pays attention, sometimes there is a possibility that you can see someone who is, someone who is not behaving properly in society. Before we got on set earlier, we were talking about these individuals who hire houses, but there is no mattress, there is no basin, there is nothing in the house. You understand? So that should be cause for concern. Also, as a landlord or someone who is bringing in a tenant, I don't know if your landlords, that's if you still rent, I don't know if your landlords pick your national IDs or at least fetch certain information about you. You're supposed to.
They don't.
You understand? Because you're supposed to know who is in that area. Do you know your LC chairperson?
Very few Ugandans know.
Thank you.
When I was young, I remember we always knew where the LC chairperson lived, and when someone new came onto the village, they were supposed to be introduced to the LC
People don't even know
chairperson.
their closest neighbors.
Exactly. I've lived where I live for the last 3 years, and I don't know my neighbors. And it's not because I'm proud. I'm not even saying this proudly, but it's because it is a semi-gated community where everyone is into their premises. So it's really hard. You see the car. Imagine, you know the car. You're like, that's car
my neighbor's
belongs to my neighbor.
Right.
But you do not know the face of the neighbor. And when we're offset, Robert said something about us trying to live like we are in the Western world. But the Western world is better than us in the sense that they have technology. They will, even when they want to do an investigation, it's going to be very swift. Okay? But here, we live, we don't know our neighbors, we don't know, but like, I know my workmates much more than I know my neighbors, and that is cause for concern.
Because you never know what your neighbor is up to. So
Exactly.
as individuals or as Ugandans, the first role we need to play is let's be responsible. Know your local council chairperson, know your neighbor.
Be in the business of your neighbor to a degree.
To a degree.
To a degree,
because you may get hit. But yes, know your neighbor and try to be as vigilant as you can be, because the first line of security is yourself. You realize that police cannot be everywhere.
No, they can't.
Also, when you check the systems in the West, they have had mishaps in there, because the surveillance and the police cannot be everywhere. So you are your first line of protection. You are your first line of security. After that, the next line of security is the leader, the next leader in there. Now, as nationals, after that, you've tried to be as vigilant as you can be. Now, the next leader, that's the local council chairperson. Do you know the people in your area? Do you know what they do? After that, the security bodies. Look at a place like Chikuwo. Now, I hail so much these organized places. I mean, the malls, the different malls that we have. Not, I don't want to mention them, but when you are entering these malls, they are going to check you.
But are they really checking? Let's talk about that checking. Because sometimes it is just for the sake of...
Okay, that has been the case
no, that is put on the personnel. That is put on the personnel, because there are times I've put my bag and I'm expecting this lady to check. She's like, no, you go. You understand? Now, that is on the personnel. But if we talk about the owners of the mall and everything, they have done what they could to put a system in place to do the checks. But go to Chikubo, who is supposed to man the security of that place that houses a number of people, hundreds of people on a daily?
It's a bit hard to man security in Chikubo because you see how it is. It is not one single arcade or one single shop. It has many entry points, and these businesses in Chikubo are individual businesses. They're different, every man for themselves. So probably if they could sit down themselves with the security agencies and devise a way of, you know, catering to security, but also it brings in the cost. Some people may not be willing to pay for the security, to incur the cost, because at some point, you see, we are vigilant when there has been an attack or a threat or a blast. The minute things go back to normal, people start asking themselves, is this cost worth it? Because they're in the business of making money, not in the business of spending money where they do not see results. So for businessmen, security agencies would really have to do a good job of convincing them that, you know what, we need this. But actually, when I look at it, it's one of the hot points where anything could happen.
Well, we've also mentioned how we need to get to know our neighbors. I think this is a community kind of thing that we need to first of all understand. We need to handle it in a community. It should be a community come together sort of. How? Like you've mentioned, most of the local councils don't even know the people they are leading. They don't know where they work from, even the landlords themselves. So that is why if your child gets sick and you're not at home, or your child gets an issue, because your neighbor has nothing to do with you, they will never even,
that's how we've had maids harassing children
and no one wants to do anything.
That is how you get robbed without your neighbor noticing.
Without your exactly. So that means if you're a terrorist, and we've had scenarios, for example, in 2021 when police was making investigations, you get to realize most of them had either just got a house somewhere and no one even had to know of, or no one even noticed that we have new neighbors, and you know,
we need to double check or
we need to double check who are these neighbors, where are they from. So we tend to be we really don't care as a country. We really care about our own selves.
We have embraced the spirit of individuality,
and we've normalized it, and we think it's really okay.
And it isn't.
So within the long run, not until we start seeing such signs, is when we realize, hey. So it's just like you see your neighbor on TV and out of the blue for the wrong reasons, and you're like, wait a minute, that is my neighbor. Or you see police. It's like finding police in your neighborhood and you ask, why is police in my neighborhood? Simply because you really don't know what is happening.
You don't know what is happening.
We are really unbothered. And you may even bypass police without even asking to know.
You know what's weird? Uptown, let's say in the suburbs, you'll find people who don't know their neighbors. You'll find people who don't care what the neighbor does.
Exactly.
But when you move to, let's say, lower, not really suburbs, you go to, let's say, a place like Waise or somewhere in Katanga, those are people you're going to find
knowing
that are actually vigilant when it comes to knowing who is this person. This is a new person in our community. Where did they come from? What are they doing? For instance, in January, when security arrested Awan Muhammad Kayemba from Maki in the Chigaga zone, this gentleman had rented a house in a certain place, but neighbors were concerned. They had never seen him come in during day, but he used to come in during the night, and he was carrying things they didn't understand. So they alerted police. When police went to the place, they found the room empty. Like, he didn't have a bed or a basin or any utensils to show that this place is habitable. But guess what? He was found with a submachine gun in that room, and he was found with 88 bullets of an AK-47 rifle, and he was found with 88 bullets of different pistols. This person was living in a neighborhood, and the police said they relied on information from the locals.
Exactly.
So if the locals had not been in that person's business, what would have happened? Remember the incident of that happened in July this year, where an explosive device went off from someone's house and he ended up being hurt. So he was building this thing to cause havoc, and poetic justice had it. He ended up being the one being hurt.
You know, the interesting thing about these bombs and what we've been seeing is that the things that they are using are things that are commonly accessible.
Forks,
fertilizers.
Fertilizers.
Maybe the other component that I really find, why would it be so easy to find, would be gunpowder.
Yeah.
That shouldn't be easy for someone to find, but you're talking about gunpowder, you're talking about hydrogen peroxide, and a number of things that are used. But these things are, you know, easily accessible.
But again, also, let's look at what you could call the bigger picture. At times we get to realize that a poor man may not be able to make these
afford
some of these things to make these explosives. However much it is made in an affordable, they are using, for example, a food flask.
And there also has to be knowledge.
That. Exactly.
Who is teaching these people how to build explosives?
And how are they this knowledgeable, and how do they get all these equipment to set up such an explosive?
Right.
Because we're speaking of a dangerous machine, or we are speaking of something that can cost someone his life, property. So which means either way, if there is an individual or a group of people or a cartel, then they must be funded well.
No, that's why police keep saying that these people are attached to ADF.
Okay.
ADF is funding, and of course we also know that ADF has support from ISIS. Okay, so because of that, they're able to first of all get the knowledge and also to be able to run their operations. The biggest question that has failed to be answered is, why are they targeting innocent Ugandans? But like the president said after the Lubiriha Secondary School incident, they don't need a reason. They just want a soft target because they are cowards. That is what the president said. Because when they targeted 13 years ago, when they targeted the rugby grounds, and over, I think more than 20 Ugandans died that year, it wasn't because what reason have they given? The only thing I have ever heard is them saying they want to teach Museveni a lesson. Is that reason enough to kill Ugandans? This is not even political, that they want to have power, rule the country. No, it is not. Anyway, we have some comments coming in from yes, hold that thought.
It does go both
we have some comments coming in from our viewers online, and the first one says, good morning, I'm Jimmy Kev from Mokono. Poverty, I think, is the major cause of these terror attacks. There must be sponsors for all these kind of acts. So to ensure safety for Ugandans, the government must make sure it has friendly relationships with the citizens. These issues of annoying opposition supporters by not allowing them to enjoy their rallies, among others, can make some easily get tempted to join such groups of terror actors. Thank you so much. The next one says, it behooves every Ugandan national and resident to uphold the responsibility of preserving national security. Rather than solely attributing blame to the security apparatus, citizens must become more vigilantly attuned. In fending off acts of terrorism and ensuring the protection of the populace, the Ugandan police force boasts a highly trained anti-terrorism division. In conjunction with heightening security measures, individuals serving as public place sentinels, that is security guards, necessitate instruction in recognizing warning signs of terrorist activity and averting such threats. This is Moses Sakondo from Namgongo. Thank you so much, Moses. And the next one says, you people are very smart. For Monica's case, thank you so much for your appreciation. Moving on, this one says, good morning UBC. Uganda is only being protected by God. The lady is telling us to be vigilant, yes. But how will you identify people in Owino, Chikubo, people in buses? How will you know your neighbor in a jam at Clock Tower? Who checks luggage in boots in buses? Who checks people who sleep in these lodges? You guys think that these bad people only need to live in rented mizigo. What about lodges? We only need prayers. This person raises pertinent issues.
But we
still can do something.
We do what
For
we can.
instance, if you own an Airbnb or a lodge, you still need to have security, as in you have security to protect you, to guard your property. So go ahead and have the people that come into your premises checked and be sure that I am not housing a terrorist. You have to start somewhere, because prayers alone are not going to work. You pray and then you act. Seriously, this is what is supposed to happen. But also, coming back to you, we have talked about what we need to do as Ugandans, as citizens, to ensure that we are safe. But we still need to go back, because at the end of the day, we are like children with a father. And in this case, the father is the government. What more can government do to ensure that Ugandans are safe from these terror attacks?
Well, taking us back to deploying these security personnel on crowded places, you know, we've mentioned how Chikubo has many entry points, but at least we can employ quite a number of security personnel. I've come to realize the arcade owners themselves pay these security personnel or pay these security companies to have security personnel deployed. So we need to have at least 1 or 2 on the entry points. Because I do understand with these security people who work in shifts, we can ably employ quite a number of those. And then the issue to do with the laxity, it goes back to the personnel themselves. Also, I think they get really tired, maybe either way because of the delay in payment. You know, at times people do things according to how you pay them or how fast you pay them. You find the security personnel hungry, and you know, at times they'll feel like, why am I even overpaying attention? So he will do it for the first 2 hours of his day. Once he feels tired and he's not happy with life in general, he'll just let everybody enter anyhowly. So just because they are tired or they have no motivation whatsoever. Then also to the government, I think government does so well in regards to creating awareness for the people, especially during the daily Monday address from the police that happens every week. Rather, that weekly update from the police. Every time the spokesperson reminds Ugandans to be aware and cautious, so that I should give you know, a heads up to the government to say at least the government is doing something. But then also ensuring that we don't, you know, take this for granted, because with time you will get to realize if you're to check after 2 weeks time and we have no other report regarding the same matter of attacks, you realize people will get back to will relax and we get back to our normal way of doing things without even caring whether someone can enter anyhowly. But then also what the other person was saying is at times you may never know who is carrying the explosive or the bomb, especially in town where there are lots or millions of Ugandans walking. So someone may actually be in the crowded area, the other may be traveling in a bus. But when you look at the bus or transportation, I think for the buses we can do something really, because the same way travelers who use the airport, before you use the airport you go through security checks, which also some Ugandans have ideally, you know, started scrutinizing, saying also the security checks at the airport are still lacking at some point, especially during the night time. and in comparison to other airports whereby at least the security detail is always vigilant. So you get to see that for traveling, for example, buses, we can still do something. Before someone boards a bus, at least security personnel can check through
and
check
scan
scan the luggage.
Yes.
You know, you can scan everything they have, because at least we are not, people who are traveling in a bus can't be beyond 100 because we don't have a bus that has a 100 seating capacity. So we can check those people before they actually go, and we check the bus itself. Those are things that we can really do. The only difficult part, like the viewer mentioned, is maybe the passengers or the people who actually are moving through town by the use of the pedestrians mainly, because there are thousands of people, so it may be difficult to identify. That is where the prayers come in, and also being vigilant in one way or the other with the way, because a terrorist will still, you know, have some attributes the way they walk. Or in their movements, you will actually see that, hey, this person is up to something, or they're heading, you know, either way they may be too slow or too speedy, or overlooking to see where they can place their kind of luggage or their kind of explosive. So it is also back to us to be a bit vigilant. We may not be over vigilant because you're coming to the city not to check out for security issues, but to do your business. But at least you need to be more aware of anything that happens.
I have a few questions. One, is Uganda the most populated country in the world?
Not really.
It's not.
But among the most populous in East Africa.
Okay. Two, how do these, when you talk about the arcades and the places that hold, you know, that attract a number of people, are we the only country that has places that attract huge numbers of people? I believe no. So the question is, how do these other countries
manage it?
How do these other countries handle security matters in that regard? It's not rocket science that in most cases these terror groups, you know, they're looking for numbers. So if they are looking for numbers, the question is, how are you protecting those numbers? If you have been hit once, there's a likelihood you'll be hit the second time and another time, and over time we have seen that we were not going to be hit once because we've been hit more times. So the question I have is, why aren't we benchmarking on the countries that are better developed, more populated, but have areas that also attract a number of people, and we can benchmark and get ways on? We can't have the excuse of we have very many entrances to Chikubo. No. Are you telling me China markets?
Or downtown LA?
Thank you. Are you telling me that they have completely failed to get ways to man security because there are different entrances to some of these malls? I don't think so. So where there is a will, there is a way. And so is the will there?
We cannot keep coming up with excuses that there are so many people, we cannot do this. Because you see, when we had school fires, and the government came out and said a school should have fire extinguishers, a school shouldn't have this number of beds in one room, a school should not have ABCD or should have ABCD. Government can still come out and say, you know what? If you are running, let's say, if you have an arcade, the way we did with COVID-19, you should have a hand washing center before people enter. People should enter with masks and whatnot. We could do the same for security, where you're like, for a place like Chikubo, if there are 4 or 5 shops next to each other and next to them there is an entrance, there has to be a security guard manning those areas. But also I have a problem with these security guards manning these areas. Most times when you find them, they look hungry.
I didn't mention
they
that
look
also.
Yes,
you know,
they look uninterested. I've gone to places where you're entering and they check the glove box and no one bothers to check what is in the trunk.
Because actually this, you know, like we've said, government should do all this. These things are really there in place. And we even have arcades where we have washing points, but there is no water inside. So it is just a tank that is being put in there,
and
just to confuse maybe the people who are here to check out.
And Chantal said that the owners have put these things in place. If you have put these things in place, then make sure that they are also functional.
Bare minimum, they have put them in place.
But
like I said,
is not
the
what we need
implementing individuals, hear me out. Are you going to come every day as a business owner who has about 5 arcades and other businesses, usually traveling in and out of the country to come and check, or even the person you put in place? I mean, President Museveni has put people in offices, but they've constantly disappointed him. So who do you think is that arcade owner?
No, so what are we supposed to do? Because now we are lamenting, we are sounding defeated, and right now defeated is not what we need.
Yes, we do sound defeated, but I think we've only normalized one big thing in this country, is the art of moving on very fast from issues. And even on social media, we normally use it as a technique of being proud of our country, that we move on very fast. You know, and
that is self-defeating. Exactly. But anyway, the gentleman who asked us about whether we think that bombs are only made by people in Mizigo, he has again written back to us. His name is Seth A. from Rubaga, and he said, try this today. Go to any place being guarded by a policeman with a hat on your head. They will check any part of the body, but will not tell you to remove your hat. Apart from banks, at least I know that in the banks, there was a time, by the way, as we close, there was a time when even ladies that were wearing their, what's that outfit, the veils for Muslims, they would be asked to remove their veils before being served by the teller. And obviously, as we close, there is an issue that has been raised over time. It is the fact that every time there has been a bomb blast or someone has been arrested with explosive devices, when police swings into action to arrest collaborators, the collaborators are almost all Muslims. So are terrorists Muslims?
No, I don't want to drive it in that direction.
I also don't think so.
The religious part of it, because anything.
But
can
what
happen.
Explains it? Because there has to be a reason.
No, I think what explains it is the fact that if we were to remember in 2010, the Al-Shabaab attacks, this is where most of the situations came in, and all the other terror attacks were related to the Muslim Brotherhood, of which most of the Muslims came out and of course were crying out to the government saying this is a bad image to us. That is why I should definitely say that if we are to put it out to a denomination, a religious denomination,
and that's
then
we would be wrong, because we would be wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
I could veil and bomb a place
and use that as an image.
And we would be wrong, honestly, because even the Muslim community recently came out and was questioning government, saying, why is it that every time that something happens, it is Muslims that are looked at? But also I see where government is coming from, because if ADF is being funded by ISIS, these are fanatics. Okay, I emphasize fanatics because Muslims that are just practicing their religion are not out there to kill people. But then the fanatics that have gone off the grid are the ones killing people. Just like Chiwetere, a Catholic fanatic, killed people. Just like that pastor in Kenya lied to people that they have to starve to death to go to heaven. It is the fanatics that are causing this challenge. So don't be out there and say, Muslims have struck again. No, it is not Muslims. But like we have said, we need to be our neighbor's keeper. We need to know what's going on with our neighbors. We need to be in each other's business. We need to be vigilant when you're in a public place. People who like to take things that don't belong to them, you find a bag lying on the ground and you don't know what you're taking. You need to be very careful, and of course, like someone said, we need to pray that we keep safe. But to our men in uniform, thank you so much for doing a great job on Sunday. You averted something that would have been catastrophic, and we thank you. Thank you so much for all your views, and this conversation continues online. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Juko.
Yo.
Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Haven't you heard of the Parish Development Model PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, Sebatia. It is real. real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a poultry project, and now things are moving.
Joko, I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
Uncle, you should see London. Oh, my boy. This has been 5 years. You should see Uganda. Yes. Uncle Marcus, that's my former school.
See, soon there will be more than 1 million children learning like this for free.
This is impressive. Do you even have connection out here?
Well, we have 100% 4G countrywide.
Okay.
We even have 5G too.
That's approximately 700 billion Uganda shillings in tax, making Airtel one of the largest corporate income taxpayers over the last 5 years, helping build a better Uganda.
Today your son saw our new Uganda.
Thank you, Uganda, for imagining it with us and making us the fastest growing telecom in the country over the past 5 years.
I've seen a number of community members out there that have formed themselves into groups and have identified enterprises, agricultural enterprises, rice and all that, and they've actually been successfully cultivating them. They've gone ahead, the project has gone ahead and also introduced small-scale industries like the rice huller, the grinding mills and all that are managed by the groups. All these are successes.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
All right, good morning again. It's a cold one here in Kampala. Cold one in most parts of the country, I've been told as well. Tuesday it is, and it's time for GMU Business with me, Joram Paul Sonko. It's time for us to check out what is happening and making headlines from the world of business in the country. Well, there's something that is coming in from the commercial sector or the banking sector in the country, which is a report revealing that the credit issuance has fallen by 376 billion Ugandan shillings. Of getting credit. In regards to data from the Finance Ministry, total credit that has been for disbursement fell from from 1.56 billion Ugandan shillings, rather 1.56 trillion Ugandan shillings, and it fell down to 1.18 trillion in the month of June. So from the month of June to May, there were some changes. Now, most financial institutions have decreased their credit issues due to rising loan default rates to safeguard their investments, according to what is actually coming through. And besides that, when you look at the other issues, most financial institutions have ceased their credit issues due to rising loan default rates to safeguard their investments in the long run. Now, data from the Finance Ministry shows total credit approved for disbursement fell from 1.56 trillion in May. Now, the approval rate for loans decreased by 4.8% to 62.8% as banks exercised caution due to rising risks. So when you come to think of it now, banks are giving out less loans this particular year in regards to the way it was a couple of months ago, simply because of the risks attached. When you look at also the poverty levels that have continuously increased in the country, so most of the banks are looking at it more. It is actually becoming more difficult for someone to get a loan in a bank. Besides a look out at the collateral and as always, but this is actually something in regards to what has happened. Now, a breakdown of how people have actually been receiving this credit. Households received the most credit, that is 23.7% of it, or 279.3 billion, followed by agriculture and construction. When you look at how people have actually been acquiring loans this particular year, it does seem like households, or let's say people have actually been receiving loans basing on home consumption, then followed by the business community in the agricultural sector and those in the construction. I think when we mention construction, it speaks huge volumes when it comes to Uganda's real estate business, which is one of those that most Ugandans are investing heavily, if you come to think of it, as much as it does get, if you come to think of it. So by the look of things, clearly that is how credit issues has been faring this particular year. But as we're summing up with business this morning, let's have a look at how the forex rates are currently as of close of business yesterday, Monday, 4th of September. Now, the US dollar was buying at 3,715.04, that is our closing time, and selling at 3,725.04 Ugandan shillings. Then furthermore, when you look at the euros, was buying at 4,009.27 shillings while selling at 4,020.06 shilling. Then the Great British Pound buying at 4,686.89 shillings while selling at 4,699.51 shillings. Then the Kenyan shillings buying at 25.49 shillings while selling at 25.56 shillings. Then the Tanzanian shilling buying at 1.48 shillings while selling at 1.49 shillings. Then the South African rand buying at 197.43 shillings while selling at 197.96 shillings. Now, meanwhile, summing up of this particular one is us getting into the press review again, revisiting what the headlines are saying at the front pages in Uganda and also elsewhere within the East African region. Now, the New Vision is headline for the day is highlighting police names places on terror hit list, as amongst which 6 suspects have been arrested. Then more bomb materials have been recovered. Still, a pictorial of some of the suspects being arrested is also on the front pages of the New Vision's edition today. Now, how government paid ghost teachers for 22 years is a big story on that on page 4 in today's New Vision. Now, furthermore, President Museveni is said to punish individuals escalating a power conflict. There is a report of that with the New Vision today, as in the new curriculum, Visionist tests excite students. That is what the New Vision is highlighting. Then Her Vision, how rugby star raised daughter as a teen mother. You can get more of that with the New Vision today. Now, with the Daily Monitor as well, that is from the local press review. Uganda passport fraud nightmare in East Africa is what the Daily Monitor is highlighting. The dilemma, which is actually showing that due to increased forgeries of the Ugandan passport, many travelers have either been subjected to overly strict scrutiny by immigration officials or denied entry in China, India, Singapore, among other East Asian countries. Now, also, back to the roots. Karamoja annual culture show starts. Then in the other news, Kasubi Tombs to reopen next month as servers now shun NSF midterm benefits. Also, with the Daily Monitor, there is a report regarding security forces recovering more bombs in Kampala. Now, lastly, from the press review, we take a look at the Daily Nation from Kenya. The headline in the Daily Nation shows Africa's climate summit, Africa's moment. Remember, Kenya is hosting the Africa Climate Summit this year, and that is in Nairobi. Pictorial of President William Ruto flagging it off yesterday, and which delegates are taking place or are taking part of the same. Now, Amadi has been accused of meddling in fake gold case. Dubai-based firm claims senior judicial officer pushing to have case dismissed. Now, firm surrendered 3 grabbed islands in Kwale as the EACC to file a recovery suit for a 4th, and that is what Daily Nation has for you on this Tuesday. Well, that's it for the GMU business update this morning, as well as the press review. Now, up next is the traffic updates with Olive Najuma to take us through what is happening on this cold Tuesday morning.
Well, good morning once again. I'm Olive Monica Nejuma, and I am here to help you through your traffic routes today. The roads in Kampala can be tenuous, especially when it rains like it did this morning. So if you're just leaving home, I will help you to choose a route, especially if you're coming from the areas of Nansana going to Nankulabi, Kasubi, or even Wandegea and the Central Business District. But before we get into that, there is a public notice from the Uganda National Bureau of Uganda National Roads Authority, I beg your pardon, and they say they have finally authorized buses plowing the Masaka-Kampala highway to go through Katonga Bridge. So what are they saying? Following the continuous technical monitoring and recent assessment conducted for the old existing bridge at Katonga, it has been established that the bridge can withstand loading up to 30 tons. As a result, the existing bridge has now been open to all buses in addition to the light vehicles that were earlier permitted to use the section under the precautionary measures that are to be implemented immediately by the contractor, who is China Communications Construction Company Limited, during this time. So all permitted traffic is therefore strongly urged to follow the signage in place and all the traffic guidelines established at a safe approach distance to the bridge. Currently, works on phase 2 of the restoration works at Katonga construction of the steel bridge are ongoing, and on completion will enable full restoration of traffic at Katonga section before permanent works can commence. We regret any inconveniences caused during this time as we undertake these essential works on our national road network, and that is the message from Uganda National Roads Authority regarding the works at Katonga Bridge. Now, going back to our traffic updates, we will pick it up from Nansana around Yesu Amala stage, and here we see a few orange zones which indicate that there is a slow movement of traffic, but it still isn't that kind of worrying traffic where you have to spend so much time in one place. Here you will be able to move, albeit not as fast as you may want to. But after Yesu Amala, there is smooth flow of traffic as you move along Hoima Road, approaching the areas of Namungona. Yes, you will find a few orange zones here and there that will hold you up for a few minutes, but overall traffic looks good in this part of town this morning. Now, as we head to the areas of we are still in Nansana, there seems to be a part where there is a traffic jam coming through, and that is being fed in by roads that come from, let's say, the road that comes from Little Hedge School Road. That one is bringing in traffic onto the main Hoima Road around Nansana Total Energies. But as you move along, there is a smooth flow of traffic, and as you continue, yes, you will be able to step on those pedals. But like I always say, you have to ensure that you drive responsibly, because there are other road users on the road. So the biggest section of Nansana is actually smooth. There is a smooth flow of traffic up until you reach the road that comes in from Busy Mine School. There is huge traffic coming through, and it is feeding into the main Hoima Road. And of course, as you still continue on Hoima Road, there is a section that has smooth flow of traffic, and then the red zones start. Now these ones are intense on both sides of the road. You will find that the people going to the side of Nansana are held up, and also the people heading to town are held up. As you can see there, the red zones go on and on both sides of the road. So you need to keep this in your mind if you're going to the areas of Nansana. And then as we continue, the red zones also continue, because yes, this morning it seems like everyone is on the road. There is something that usually happens when it rains in the morning or even in the evening. For some reason, there is a slow movement of traffic, and everyone seems to hit the road at the same time right after the rain stops, and it seems like that is what is happening this morning on Hoima Road. Now continuing ahead, we see traffic as we approach the roundabout at Namungona. Traffic flow now is good. So if you're going to the areas of Namungona, then you are in luck, because there is a smooth flow of traffic along that area of Hoima Road. So you will be able to not be held up so much on the road. But then there is that junction as you go to Kasubi Tombs around New Kasubi Market. There is intense traffic, because the red zones actually become a deep red, which shows that yes, around here you're going to be held up for quite some time. But when I look at the roads coming through, joining the main Hoima Road around Kasubi, that is Nambi Road, they actually look empty. So if you're coming from that side, at least you're not going to be held up in the feeder roads, because that can also be intense. But as we move along to the areas of Nankulabye, then we are going to still find smooth flow of traffic. So if that's the area you're going to, you are in luck this morning. The traffic seemed to be a lot more around Nansana, but it let up around Kasubi. But now in Nankulabye, around the traffic lights near the market, there is a bit of traffic, but it is not worrying. So if you're coming in from the areas of Balintuma Road, there is smooth flow of traffic that side. And if you're going down along the road that joins you to Wandegea, there is still smooth flow of traffic. So the morning looks really good for you. Let's take a short look at Wandegea and see what that looks like. Around Makere Hill Road, there is smooth flow of traffic and a few orange zones indicating that you'll be held up a little bit, but this is at the intersection, so that is to be expected. But after that, there is smooth flow of traffic, except a little section where there is Total Energies as you continue ahead to join the main trading center in Wandegea. Now when you reach there, yes, there is traffic within the intersection that joins you to Bombo Road and Haj Musa Kale Road. But after that, the road is clear. Thank you so much for being a part of Good Morning Uganda. I'm Olive Monica Najuma, and Agenda is right next.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Pick
Topic of the day on UBC.
Was brought to you by MTN Momo Pay is the easy way to pay. Dial *165*3# or use the MTN Momo app. You don't need cash. MTN Momo Pay is safe and free.
I'm very appreciative to the government of Uganda for the support it has given this school. First of all, it is paying 16 government teachers, and it's bringing in UPE funds that has partly helped the school. Formerly, the school was not like as it is now. We have put some good face. We have planted trees around the compound. We even have a banana plantation, very, very good looking. We have 16 government teachers and 10 private teachers. Those private teachers are paid by the government.
I was here 1991, 1997. It became a model school in 95. That's when it was changed from Kazo Primary School to Kazo Model School. I am a beneficiary of UPE. Government paid for me in 1997 when I was here as a student of this school.
UBC is the national public broadcaster. We educate, inform, entertain, and inspire our audiences. You can watch us on free-to-air channel 001, DSTV channel 282, GoTV channel 371, Star Times channel 201, Zuku TV channel 20, and Azam TV channel 350. Even when your subscription expires, you can still watch UBC for free on your pay TV platforms.
I've seen a number of community members out there that have formed themselves into groups and have identified enterprises, agricultural enterprises, rice and all that, and they've actually been successfully cultivating them. They've gone ahead, the project has gone ahead and also introduced small-scale industries like the rice huller, the grinding mills and all that are managed by the groups. All these are successes.
This week on UBC.
Juko.
Yo.
Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Uganda, haven't you heard of the parish development model PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, Sebatia. It is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a portrait project, and now things are moving.
Juko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
A new dawn on Behind the Headlines with me, Timothy Nyangweso. Every Wednesday, live in our studios in the heart of Kampala. We have conversations that have analysis, explanation, but not every truth is fact, and not every fact is truth. Every Wednesday, 10 p.m. on your public broadcaster.
All on your public broadcaster, UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Accord Tuesday here in Kampala. Thank you so much for being with us. Well, most of the times when it rains, it is a blessing. In Africa, when it rains, indeed, it is a blessing. But one person once said, when you don't stay in particular areas, there are some areas when it rains, it is not a blessing. It is a day full of trouble. Because right from when you're still sleeping, you have to make sure you wake up and move a few things. So if you're in those areas, we sympathize, we pray for you, and we hope that life will be better. More so when we know by 2025 we shall have received our first oil, that those will be priority areas for you. If you're in the village, well, agriculture, and most of us depend on rainfall-fed agriculture, the time is now for you to go and plant. If you're in urban areas, there's also urban agriculture. I've seen many people using empty tins, trying to do something, at least have vegetables around there, and reduce on your budget, on your expenditure. But also, water harvesting is very important. Let this water not just run off your roof, harvest it and make some savings. So have a benefit of something you've benefited from this early morning pour or this rainy season, than just saying rain is an inconvenience for you and all you can do is have the supermarket, the market as your garden. Well, join me this morning to welcome Dr. Daniel Tumwine, who happens to be the team leader, Uganda Medical Expo 2023. We are going to be discussing health. Doctor, you're most welcome.
Thank you very much, and good morning, everyone.
Now, to begin with, we've had a number of expos. This time, this one is medical.
Yes.
Now, briefly give us the genesis as how you arrived to this, more so knowing you in the medical profession, things of kind of coming out so much to the public is not your thing. I'm even told the law prohibits one from advertising, just saying, I'm Dr. Sans, I do this very much. Why this time are we seeing people in the medical field coming out and saying, let's have an expo?
Okay, so that's a very important question. I can answer it at 2 or 3 levels. For the first one, maybe why it's called an expo. It's really a misnomer. We want to call it more knowledge and networking event. Okay, expo is because everybody understands what an expo is, but really it is it's really what we're calling a knowledge and networking event. And the reason is, to answer your question more broadly, is that we're trying to improve the health literacy of Ugandans. We know for a fact that many times people are financially exploited. We don't have enough prevention awareness. We don't know what services are available. Sometimes we self-medicate. We don't know many things about health as a public, and because of that you will find that the health outcomes that we have tend to be much less. So for example, if your father got a stroke today, where would you go? First of all, a stroke doesn't come out of the air. We have usually someone has small strokes which lead to a very big stroke. But if you're there at home and your father wakes up 2 weeks before that big stroke, and there are certain signs and symptoms that are showing,
the mouth has kind of changed a bit.
Yes, it could be different things. Sometimes he's not even able to lift his own hand briefly, but he won't know because he's health illiterate. But when somebody is able to understand that, there is a danger sign here, then they're able to intervene early. And once they intervene early, the cost of care goes down and the chances of recovery improve vastly. So health literacy really is a very broad brush, and it can include anything from what do I do when my wife is pregnant, okay? Many people always ask, but why do all the doctors go and deliver in one certain hospital? Yet the public delivers in other hospitals. What do doctors know about this hospital? That's health literacy. Why is it that many of us are flying out to Turkey? Why are they flying out to India? Yet there are amazing hospitals, some of them which are free. For example, I always give the example of Entebbe Surgical Children's Hospital, free of charge. Okay, it's one of the elite hospitals in Africa. They see a lot of non-African children, non-Ugandan children. But for me, when my child got sick, needs surgery, we fly out. Same thing in Bali. Those doctors are trained in the US. There's something called the Cure Hospital for children with neurological issues. So you have cerebral palsy, you have something called hydrocephalus, okay, free of charge, just drive to Mbale. But when you go there, a large percentage of those are being treated from patients from abroad. Why is it that us as Ugandans don't know the services that we have? So health literacy can cover either the services or the information, the knowledge itself that will help you have early intervention, prevention, and also you don't need to have financial exploitation. And also you find that some of these medical myths, because where we get our knowledge is very important. You asked, how come doctors don't come out? The reason doctors are not coming out, either it is because we are taught that the people will find us, okay? The law actually states, yes, that we're not allowed to advertise, but we're allowed to inform. It is important that when we have the skills to do keyhole surgery, you don't need to go to Nairobi, you don't need to go to India. Keyhole surgery is being done in Uganda very, very regularly now. And so we've brought in associations, we have brought in medical experts, around 60 medical experts who are going to come and say, let us showcase what we actually have. You don't need, if your father has diabetes, if your grandfather has hypertension, this is what you should do. So health literacy is very important. And what we found is that many times with health literacy, it tends to be very siloed. Okay, so for example, if COVID-19 comes, a lot of information is given about what? COVID-19. You ask any person in the public, they will know a lot of information about COVID-19. But a mother who has a PhD in economics and has a child is unable to breastfeed. Okay, and so what happens? There are marketers that come and say, no, you come and give powdered milk. Okay, you give cow milk. Cow milk is actually bad for children below 1 year. And the reason is the body can't even absorb iron. And iron is so important for intelligence in your child and the immune system. Almost 60% of our children are stunted. Stunted means your child has chronic malnutrition. And so they're taking all this iron. But who is telling these mothers? And because we are not in that space, we're not in that education space, other people come in and they confuse the public. So we are saying we are bringing health experts, we are giving evidence-based data so that people can come and actually be empowered. Okay, if I go to a hospital, for example, and I don't feel I've gotten a good service, where do I start? What do I do? Where do I go? So we even have a session, for example, in the Medical Expo where we have patient rights experts, okay, both lawyers, both people in the NGO space, to inform. Okay, if you think there is something that has happened to you and you feel the health service wasn't good, these are your rights.
Now, so Doctor, one would like to know what is the driving force behind this? Because you rightly said it is all about health literacy, giving people information, but how did you come up with this? What do you intend to achieve? Because at the back of my mind, I'm still asking myself, why now? Why do we see these people in the medical fraternity? We usually see you when you go for medical camps.
Yes.
That, well, it's about right of gift of sight. You've gone now to help the elderly. It is about this, that. But an expo Was there a need for this? Was there an urgency? What drove you to this?
So the key thing is that it is part of what we call our health literacy campaign, which is in 3 phases. So phase number 1 is, for example, I come here and I say, we need to discuss nutrition. Okay, so the doctors go out. We have doctors, healthcare workers, and not even nurses, expert patients. So it doesn't even have to be doctors. Okay, so for example, I'm a cancer survivor. Okay, if you're a cancer survivor and I've gone through the whole chemotherapy, or I've gone through all the phases of cancer treatment, how do I go to the public and say, if you have cancer, it's not a death sentence, me, I survived it, this is... So we have all these experts, and they don't have to, as I said, they can be either be patient experts or health experts. And so we've been going out, we've been writing articles in the newspapers, we've been going to different medias, both online and traditional media, and giving information, because information is key.
Yes.
You can build 600 hospitals, okay? But if you don't prevent healthcare, if you're not teaching people that, if you cut this grass, the mosquitoes won't grow. If they don't have that knowledge, they'll still be going to their hospitals, okay? But the issue is to prevent. They'll also be exploited. If they don't know that there's a hospital that is free, they'll go to a hospital that actually is going to charge you through or they'll even go to some other place, which might even be run by quacks. So health information is very key. So phase 1 is us as health workers and the patient experts going out and using media to communicate health information. Phase 2 is really bringing these health experts in one space. So that's what the expo is about. Let's bring 60 of them, 70, put them in one space. People come and we tell them, there is this, there is this, there is this. When you're talking about men's health, we could discuss this. What about elderly people's health? Things which are always ignored. And then phase 3, which will be after the expo, it's now us as experts going into the communities. We have churches, we go to schools. So for example, we've done some activities previously where we've gone and given asthma education to children in schools and also to the health facilities around schools. So the idea is, how do we empower the public to have good knowledge that is sustainable and that is not just one type of knowledge? We know everything about Ebola, okay? But do we know things about, do you know the danger signs of a pregnancy? Okay, we know, for example, that 30% of mothers don't know 3 danger signs when they're pregnant, and that's dangerous. Yes, they might know bleeding is one danger sign. Do they know others? Okay, and yet we're losing a lot of mothers.
Yes.
Okay, people might not come for antenatal care because they don't know, they don't have that information. So the idea is, how do we make sure that health information is a part of almost everyday life? Okay, we get our health information, for example, when we're in primary schools, we're being told there are certain immunizable diseases. Do you know that there are 63 immunizable diseases in the world? Okay, but many of us will know 4. Some of us, if we are good, we will know 10. Exactly. Okay? Some of us, it's just what is written on our card. But there are 63 different ones. And which ones should you do? Why is it that pediatricians, for example, I'm a pediatrician, we don't like painless vaccines? Their mothers come to us and say, we've learned pain. And every pediatrician says, my child will never get a painless vaccine. Okay? But every other mother, either they have come to market it, okay, or they're not looking at the data. You find that marketers come and talk to these mothers and say, give a painless vaccine. It is expensive. That painful vaccine we get is free. It's given by the government for free. It is better. It is more immunogenic. How do you tell a parent that? Because we are not in that space having these conversations with these parents. And so someone else is doing that work. Okay? So
you're coming out to the world.
Exactly. We have to be in that space.
Know. Now, when you talk about coming out and letting them know, that this takes me to a camp that is going to happen for about from Thursday to Saturday.
Correct. So,
but who are the people you're targeting? And attendance is by, is it invitation?
Yeah. Okay, so yes, so our medical expo is starting this week on Thursday, so that's on the 7th of September, and it's going to run through Saturday, which is on the 9th. And we are targeting every single Ugandan, because there is no Ugandan who doesn't have either a patient, has been a patient, or doesn't want medical education. So we are targeting every Ugandan, from the top people all the way to Muntu wa wansi. There is absolutely, everybody requires and it needs health education. Sometimes the health education might be different for different people, and that is why we are trying to bring an eclectic type of experts. Okay, we are just charging 5,000. It's just really a token fees, either just to pay for the water and electricity of the space, but really this is just to make sure that there is no barrier of entry for anyone who wants to come in. So the people who are there have given up their time, they've given up their their space to come and say, let us impart knowledge to the people. So that is why we are working very closely. The Ministry of Health is going to come and open the expo, but also we're working very closely with the specialist associations. So we have the surgeons, the associations of all the surgeons in Uganda. They're going to be there. They're going to talk about what are the things that what are the concerns that patients give them. Okay, we're working closely with the pediatricians. What are the concerns that parents have in the when they've been working, whether they've been working in Gulu, Kavale, here in Kampala? What are the pediatricians saying are the gaps that they are seeing in the knowledge of their clients? And so we're going to address that. Same thing with the obstetricians. So we're working with the psychiatrists, the obstetricians, the surgeons. We're working with the gynecologists. So that we are actually giving good evidence-based information and data. Many people ask us, what about the traditional herbalists? We have scientifically proved herbs. Okay, herbalists who come, but there are many people who wanted to come and just say, oh no, for me I'm a herbalist, I want to attend this expo. No, if your herbs are scientifically proven to work, they are well regulated, no problem. So that everyone, when we said this is the information we are giving, we are comfortable and saying this is what we recommend as a group of doctors coming out. So that is why we are really into that. Yeah.
Now also, let's look at how is this going to be disseminated, because you seem to have so much.
Correct.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we have this medical expo come to an end. So is it going to be in shifts? Because by the time someone gets a token to come and attend, sometimes people have left when the whole thing has been everywhere yet nowhere.
Yeah, so no, first of all, this expo is going to be an annual event. So this is, as I said, this is the very first expo. And it's, as I said, it's really different, because you had mentioned something about people come and get treated. We are really, that's not really the key thing, okay? Because everybody, having medical fairs, you go somewhere and then you say you come and we treat you. That's not really the key issue. The key, yes, there are organizations, okay, who are going to be screening. Okay, for example, we have the oldest hospital in Uganda, I think Mengo Hospital, and they've opened their eye center since like the 1940s. Okay, they are coming and they said they want to be able to screen, okay, people with eye conditions. All right, and there are other labs who want to screen, for example, for diabetes and stuff like that. So that one is there, but that's not really the key. The key is, how do we make sure that this information is continuous? This expo is just a catalyst. Okay, so as we said, after this expo, there's going to be a phase where the doctors are going to go into the communities. Okay, and then after another few months, we're going to have another expo for 2024. So the idea is to ensure that we are not just doing one thing and disappearing. So the idea is, how do we continue doing activities beyond just the medical expo? The medical expo is just to say there is something we are doing. We are trying to fight health illiteracy in our country, so that the health outcomes improve, so that we fight financial exploitation. When you're in when your mother and she's on your deathbed and the doctor says, I wish you had come earlier. You have gone around town, you have listened to 200 different advices, and finally you have reached somewhere and they've said, I wish you had come earlier, I would have saved your mother. We want to prevent that kind of regret. Everybody has experienced something like that, okay? So that is why we are saying, we are not just having a medical expo and going away. We're going to be doing activities way beyond that. Yes, there's a lot of activities that are going to happen during the expo itself. Specifically, we're going to have beyond just people coming in and talking about their health services. Very key, we're going to have what we call symposia. There is a mental health symposia. There is, for example, an old person's health symposia. What are the conditions? What are the things that old people suffer? Because our parents are suffering out there. They're always in pain. Why is it that we don't have help that is targeted to the old people? Okay, we're going to talk about addictions. In this town, there's a lot of addictions, whether it is drugs, whether it is alcohol. What help is actually out there? We're bringing in people who deal daily with the addictions, people who have overcome those addictions. So there's a lot of issues. There's even a topic on financing. Okay, many people say healthcare is what? It's expensive.
And
okay?
indeed it is.
Yes. So how do you
expensive.
navigate that? What help do you have? Why is healthcare expensive? We even have those people who are charging you that 7 million per day. Remember during COVID, people would charge almost 7 million a day to be in ICU. Why is it 7 million? If it's 7 million, is there assistance and help that you can actually help? So there's a lot of different themes. The idea is, let us just scratch the surface, but we continue and empower our patients. So every day there's 3 or 4 themes for those days. As I said, health financing, I think, is on day 1. We have male health. Okay, still, I think it must also still be on day 1. Okay, when we're dealing with women's health, I think that's on day 3. That's on Saturday. Women health, and then child health. What are the issues? What about if I have a patient at home? I'm in their home, okay? Either home care. Yes, there's home care. Okay, I have a patient with chronic conditions. What should I do? What help should I get? How do I navigate that? But also, you have a house help. Okay, you have gone to work, your child is sick. Is there first aid? We have Red Cross coming. Okay, they're going to tell us. There are things like what happens when you're in a road traffic accident, trauma. Okay, we have there's an institute in Mulago whose main thing is does research and deals with trauma. These borders. Why is it that when a patient is in an accident, a person is in an accident, everyone removes their shirt? That is a bad thing, by the way. Everyone fans them. That is actually a bad thing. This person needs as much air as he can. By fanning in, you're removing the air. You shouldn't even move a person who is in an accident, because you might end up making some of these fractures worse. So all this information
is what someone is going to be getting at the first ever Uganda Medical Expo 2023 that will be kicking off from the 7th of this month till the 9th of this month. Now 7th is Thursday, and it will be running till Saturday of this very month. Now I want to look at some of the questions that are coming in from our viewers. Thank you so much for sending in these messages, and you can still use that number on your screen and I'll be reading them out. Let me begin with this one. Good morning, Uganda. I'm by the name Charlie Nsima, Stephen from Guru. Thanks for the show, but I have a question. My mom is feeling body pain, mostly legs, arms. Help me by telling me the required medicine. Okay, doctor. Then, hello, thanks for the Medical Expo 2023 information this morning. Where is the event taking place? Well, that is at the Uma Show Grounds, multi-purpose hall, if I'm right.
Correct.
Yes. Yeah. And still, good morning, doctor. I saw on UBC Live, I have 2 kids who are sickle cell carriers. They are 6 and 3 years. What's the best food I can feed them on to make their immunity up and active? Now, a number of questions are more over what people are going through, and of course the best is the medical camp, but maybe those that the doctor can address briefly. Hello, thanks for the Medical Expo. Okay, well, still the same personal story with there, and then let's look at those few, doctor.
Okay, so I think the first one I might not be able to answer it because I think that the gentleman mentions that their mother has pains and aches, and this goes right to the heart of exactly what we're doing. Our parents are out there as we get older. You know, Uganda has historically been a very young population. So as we get older, we start having all these pains and cracks and, you know, everything. And we don't even know where the help is. Now, for me, I can't answer directly and say this might be the issue and this might be the issue without looking at the patient and taking all this history and seeing if I can actually make a diagnosis. So I'm unable to help him directly. However, of course, we have, as I said, right now they've just opened an old people's clinic in Mulago, for example, for the first time. You know, when we were students a few years ago, anybody with the old people conditions, they were on their own. So there's a gentleman who has just come back from Australia. He's an old people's expert, and he's going to be at the expo and he's going to give these conversations, and he's also going to be talking about what help people can have. My advice to the gentleman is really, if he's able to go to one of the hospitals in Gulu, because he said he's from Gulu, and the doctors actually do a proper assessment, it would be helpful, because a lot of our old folks really go through a lot of conditions. So you might find that one person has like 6 different conditions. Okay, so what we are saying in the expo is that there's going to be a whole session about what are the issues that old people go through. What help can you get? What do you, as a child of your parents, want to look out for, and how can you actually assist them? So that just helps me to answer that. I may not be able to answer him directly what it is, but it just says the help is there. Okay, and the experts are coming up. We still have a few experts in Uganda on old people medicine, but they're actually coming up. So let's just respond to him. Then the sickle cell carriers. There's a lot of sickle cell is actually quite common in Uganda, and one of the reasons why sickle cell is common is because the carriers specifically tend to be very almost immune to severe malaria. So they used to survive in the olden days. Previously, you will find that a child is born in the tropics, in the 1800s, they get malaria and they die. But for whatever reason, we found that children or persons with sickle cell carriers tend to survive much better with severe anemia. So they used to grow into adulthood. So there's a large...
Actually, there's even a belief that, I remember when I was, one time when I went to hospital, someone told me that, before you don't get malaria, there's that feeling
not that you don't get malaria.
Even they assume they don't.
You do get malaria, but you survive the severe one. If you're sick, if you have sickle cell itself, then when you get malaria, it's actually quite worse. But if you're a carrier, it's a bit protective.
It's very protective.
Yeah. So the thing with many patients with sickle, or many people with sickle cell, both disease carriers, there, but not so much, is that sickle cell affects the immunity, and the reason why it affects the immunity is because we have what we call a spleen. There's an organ, called a spleen. There's a liver, we have a stomach, and then we have a spleen. The organs in your tummy. Okay, so the spleen is very, very important in preventing diseases. Okay, so in many people with sickle cell anemia, the spleen is affected, and that's because it tends to remove abnormal red blood cells. So it eventually becomes really, really not very functional. So patients and people with sickle cell anemia tend to have recurrent infections.
Okay? Because actually the cells are sickle in shape.
Because the spleen which fights infection has an issue. Yeah, because the spleen which fights infection has an issue. So what you want to be able to do is, you want to be able to prevent malaria. You want to you make sure that you sleep on a mosquito net. Okay, some people are given what we call prophylaxis. They're giving medication to actually prevent the malaria. What I always tell people is that you take iron-rich foods, because iron for children with sickle cell and persons with sickle cell, iron is very important for immune system, but not iron supplements, because iron supplements can make sickle cell worse. What you want is iron-rich foods, so things like brown bread, things like kalo, things like rice, okay, are very rich in iron. So what you want to be doing is encouraging your children, because he says he has children who are sickle cell carrier, just to have iron-rich foods, okay, and also to be able to prevent as much infection as they can. Otherwise, usually children with who are carriers, it depends on how severe what percentage of the carrier is, but generally they tend to live very healthy lives, and once in a while they can get into a small crisis or they can get ill, but generally they should be okay. Yeah.
Well, that's the reason.
And of course,
why
we are bringing in, we are working with the Uganda Sickle Cell Foundation, and we have an expert in sickle cell who's going to come and give a talk during the medical expo as well.
Well, I have to end with this few. Thanks for hosting that gentleman, Chirabo. Is there some fee required to attend that medical expo? I am Wodea Yovena from Sironko. And good morning, Uganda. It's Gilbert from where will, I think you wanted to say, where will the event be? And someone just says, good morning, doctor.
Yes, as I mentioned previously, so the event is going to be held as from starting this Thursday on the 7th of September, and it's going to run until Saturday. It will be at Lugogo Multipurpose Hall at Uma Showgrounds. There's a big hall there, and it will run for the 3 days, as I said. If the fee is just nominal, it is just 5,000 shillings. We need to make sure that everybody is able to attend. Who wants to attend can attend. So it's really just a nominal fee, just to cover a few, one of our few costs. But generally, it is almost free. It is semi-free. It is 5,000 shillings. Yes, and many of the people who are coming in are giving up all their time, to give out expertise to the public. So yes.
Well, one thing is knowledge is power, and when it comes to health issues, doctor, one of the things that I've come to understand, mostly in the African society, third world countries, is there's so much myth surrounding so many diseases. That's why you'll find that someone, I'll talk about sickle cells, it came so much here. And of course, I'm fairly more knowledgeable there. Someone will come in and say, that family has a bad disease that kills their children. Don't marry from that family. Some will tell you sickle cells, it has this connection. Maybe these children are someone, the couple is related. So there is so much that we have when it comes. There are so many diseases.
So you're completely right, and it's not just sickle cell, and this is why we have we also have a section.
Have you ever heard of something called a taro? I don't know medically what you call that.
No, I'm not quite sure about that one. But what I wanted to mention was that there's a lot of medical myths.
Yes.
Okay, not just because of sickle cell. Say, for example, a child has Down syndrome. Say, for example, a child has cerebral palsy. These are conditions that children tend to get. So that is one of the reasons we have a session called Living with Special Needs. Okay, so you have somebody who is autistic. The society looks at you with a lot of stigma, okay, because you can't talk, The children with Down syndrome are called Basiru, because they are saying that, they are intellectually challenged, okay, and even adults as well, So we have a whole session called Living with Special Needs. What assistance can you have? How can we fight the stigma? So underneath that is a whole symposium. Underneath that, how do we respond to the stigma in society? What help can we have? Who are the people who can help people who have sickle cell, who have Down syndrome, who have autism? So yes, because there's a lot of misconceptions.
So you get the information and where you can seek the help.
Exactly.
Yes. Well, Doctor, it's been a very interesting time discussing with you. And of course, to our viewers, please make it a point that you attend the first ever Uganda Medical Expo. That is 2023, that will be at Uma Showground, Multipurpose Hall, starting from Thursday to Saturday. Be there, and I hope there will be a question and answer session. And of course, you get knowledge where you can go, but also empower yourself with the knowledge regarding some diseases. I was just asking doctor, but he's not aware of what I wanted to ask. Where someone is told, should you go to hospital with that particular disease and get injected, you die. It cannot be treated the African way. Well, you need information. Have a lovely moment. Ruben is coming up with sports, and then later I'll return regarding issues of security with the defense spokesperson in Good Morning Uganda Extra. Good morning.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Juko.
Yo.
Hawachi